Hey everybody. So while the presentation comes up, I'm actually excited to be in a session where I'm speaking to probably IPAs, organizations, agencies, advisors that think about investment. We spend a lot of time actually thinking about how we got to where we are today. I think it's one slide too advanced. Let me see how this works. All right. So I'm originally from Venezuela, from South America. I grew up in the United States, went to university there, and I worked in an investment bank for about 4 or 5 years. Before I started, and during that time, I started traveling around the world as an entrepreneur, thinking about how do I decide where to launch my career. And it's interesting because IPAs look for investors, but it's interesting also to think about how you can be looking for entrepreneurs who look for investors and who raise your flag and who think about very often, how do I bring money to your country? I went to Nigeria, I went to Angola, I went to Ethiopia, I went to South Africa. And in one of my trips, I actually went to Namibia. Namibia is this country in southern Africa, just northwest of South Africa. And I moved to a really small town, which at the time didn't have these houses. One of my partners today in Jabu, Eugene, who's there, he's Ukrainian. He used to work for a construction company, a local construction company. And I moved to this really small town hoping to give mortgages. I found that in Namibia, there was a massive mortgage opportunity. The government subsidizes civil servants. And as an entrepreneur, I thought, I can raise $1 million from an Irish family office, move here and start giving mortgages. And no one in Namibia pitches that story, the IPA, nobody. But when I came in, I realized I couldn't give mortgages because there was no one building housing. So I bought a small piece of land, actually where these 3 houses are. This was in 2014, I was 24 years old. And I started hiring people. Eugene's company actually built the houses. And I couldn't sell them because the banks couldn't process the mortgages fast enough. And I was roadblocked. Chicken or the egg, do I give mortgages, do I give houses? It was very complicated. This was almost 8, 9 years ago. Over a period of years, we started hiring people, raising more money, and building hundreds of houses all over Namibia. We had to go to China and buy brick-making factories, because in the towns where we were building, we couldn't even find the bricks. We expanded to build school infrastructure. Up there on the right is my brother Samuel, who actually runs a construction company today. And we expanded to give mortgages as well. And it's been an amazing and incredible journey of real foreign direct investment from a small entrepreneur mindset that has grown to trickle into society, create jobs, and do a lot. I was actually invited here by the Namibian government to share a story. About 2.5, 3 years ago, actually maybe even 4, I came across this lady in a town. We were the only company ever building housing. No one had built housing there before. The town is up there where you see the Google pin. It's called Oshifo. There's about 2,000 people officially, but really it's like 10,000. And like 600 civil servants. So we knew there was a massive mortgage demand, massive housing demand. This is this lady's little shop. She came up to me with $200 in cash, and said, Tate David, I want to buy 20 bags of cement. There's no cement retailers, there was no stores, nothing of the sort. And I was so curious, I actually brought her the bags of cement to her plot. I took the money. Proud to have done it. And this is what I found when I got to her plot. Now keep in mind, I've been breaking my back with my brothers and with maybe 100 people, building housing, investing, raising money, convincing people of these stories. This woman made about $100 a month. You would never think that she's your market from an FDI perspective. When I got to her plot, she had 30,000 cement bricks. A bank would finance a house built with these guys. And these are my 20 bags of cement. She had stones, she had dug up a plot. That's what her house looks like today, by the way. This lady doesn't make more than $1,500 a year revenue in her little shop. And the more I questioned her, the more I understood she was the future to housing, she was the future of the economy. The small merchant, the backbone of a country's economy, is where real investment has to go. Now, I applaud the Namibian government, and they know it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have been invited for saying this often. But they spend money and raise billions to do infrastructure projects in the mining sector, in the fishing sector, and now in the hydrogen sector. But the reality is that more than 60% of the population lives informally. And that's Namibia. In other markets, it's 90. And we come to these conferences to think about how do we invest in the 1 to 2 to 5% of the population that generates 80% of the GDP. But the truth is the GDP is much larger than we think. It's unmeasured, it's informal. And that's where we started Jabu. Jabu is a super app for Africa's informal economy. We are the fastest growing B2B marketplace. We're in e-commerce. Think of us as an Amazon for the little shop. Anyone like that woman could take out her app or even make a phone call if she doesn't want to use an app and order directly from us. And we will deliver to his or her shop, whoever needs it, any products they need to actually stay completely filled and work on it. We service in less than 2 years, tens of thousands of shops. We have 9 distribution centers. We operate in 3 countries. We employ over 400 people. And we've raised $18 million plus of venture capital for Namibia. We were in Y Combinator. We raised money from A4, FJ Labs, and most recently, we raised our Series A from Tiger Global. And the accolades are not the incredible part of the story, but it's the fact that it's possible. The fact that it's possible to take a sector that no one is thinking about, to raise capital from places you've never thought you could, and bring it into a market that is small enough where you would think you could never invest. Now, as an IPA, you have to really think about what I'm sharing because it is your duty, it is the duty of the IPAs or the advisors of the IPAs or of the governments to enable entrepreneurs like us to be able to execute this. I was in a high-level panel yesterday where they were talking about visas. Yes, that's important. But you've got to sell your story harder than we are doing it and better. You can't be talking about mining all the time. You can't be talking about the economy. All right, sorry, I walk around. It's fine, as long as you can see the slide. You can't tell the story of one part of the sector without telling the story of everyone and the story of the people. Because for us, when we went to raise capital, I mean, I worked in investment banking for 4 years. I worked in Google for 2 years. I had the networks to be able to reach out to these investors and be able to attract the capital. But my hardest roadblock was, why Namibia? Why would we invest there? How many other tech companies have done this? We've never met anyone from Namibia. We've never even heard this story. And I think after I sold the story for 400 times, the 400th investor was like, oh, I've heard about this. Because probably somebody from the first 100 must have started a trickle effect. So as an IPA, one of the questions I pose is, how many times do you get on that flight to meet venture capital firms and just share a story that's worth sharing? Or tell a story about investment that doesn't necessarily link into 1 or 2 or 3 of the top sectors. You wouldn't think about this. We sell sugar, beer, pasta, maize meal. We do in Namibia alone over $1.5 million a month. We're less than 2 years in operation. Our team, I mean, this is an old slide. Eugene is there at the middle. We're probably over 400 people, might be 500. The problem is we're not even sure. And at the core of everything we're doing is a lady like Johanna, who instead of being all the way in the north of Namibia, is in the capital, and runs a shop just in the same way. This is the problem we solve. Thousands of these little guys, and that's what they are, the underdog of the retail economy, have to take a taxi to go to a supermarket, to buy stuff, to come back to their shop, to sell stuff in an informal economy at a higher price than any of us would walk outside right now and buy it at a supermarket. It's disruptive. It decycles the flow of funds. The economics of an economy is how much money flows. And if we can make it flow faster, with better frequency, in larger amounts, we're building a stronger country. We have expanded, and I wish some of your African counterparts were here, but we have expanded from Namibia as a story that one wouldn't even think to Zambia. And we're starting to grow in Zambia in an incredible way. We employ over 100 people in Zambia alone. We've taken this business now, in Namibia we're in 6 cities. We've taken this business now to Johannesburg. We've just launched Botswana. We've registered a company in Eswatini. We're scaling at a level that we're growing. And the most incredible part is we employ people in 17 countries. We have 7 guys in Egypt programming right now. And all of this to be able to power the way Joanna or Inge, all the way at the top of the border of Angola, are able to transact. These are our operations in Windhoek. We have our own fleet, but we've now launched a driver app that allows people, like in an Uber format, or like an Amazon format, to pick up our products and drive around. We have over 100 trucks just in Vintox capital, a city with 500,000 people, plugged into our network. That's Eugene and I when we launched Zambia. We launch our business from a grassroots perspective. 100% of the people that work in operations come from the communities we serve. We are creating jobs directly in the places where we are servicing. So the girl that grew up next to this shop is now the delivery agent or the fulfillment agent or the wallet agent. And because we pick up millions in cash and coins every single day, we've now had to start a cash processing center. We've developed a wallet. And we're starting to get licenses from the banks, the central banks, in order to understand how we can better create savings and lending programs. So our business is growing in ways that we had never imagined. The cool thing is that we work with all these brands. They're also spending these brands, not with us, but they spend hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising and merchandising, and we're creating a new way for them to do it through our own field agents program. And this is the real story of what we do. We grow the average purchase size and the frequency of purchases by an incredible amount. A shop that starts buying from us today gets about 40% savings by buying from us over time. And that allows them to buy 5 times more. And at the same time, it allows them to really sell, 4 or 5 times more since they're buying. We train people to use technology to do this. It's not easy. When we first started, we would take orders on a piece of paper. When we really first started this business, I remember driving in a truck with 4 ladies, delivering every single day for 30 days out of the back of my truck. And people would say, God bless you, this is so cool. That's how we knew we had a business going, because people were thanking us. When people thank you and give you their money, you're like, okay, I'm up to something. Or I'm losing money. I think we're doing both. But the amazing thing is we would get home with a bag full of cash and a bag full of receipts. And it would take us longer to reconcile the purchases and reconcile the money than to actually go out and sell it. And that's why we had to bring so much technology into this. This is a bit of our wallet and why we're building it and how we're building it. That's our headquarters in Namibia, the glass building, which we rent from the French embassy. And the incredible thing about what we're doing for women like Catherine in Zambia and for men and women who run businesses all over informal sectors in Southern Africa today is that we're making them relevant players in the economy. Nobody serviced them before, and we're bringing direct FDI to launch an operation like this. This is our Lusaka operation in Zambia, where we just took a massive warehouse, turned it into an ops center, and hired people who never dreamed of running an operation because they come directly from the same sector, and put them in charge of the entire thing from A to Z. And we built this through communities with the idea of creating an ecosystem that is 100% powered by foreign direct investment. But the amazing thing is that we're not taking any money out. The entire thing stays in. We buy directly from local manufacturers, we work directly with local merchants, and we make sure at every single stage of the business that we're giving back. I don't think I have a slide, but probably on our Instagram page or something like that, we've now started launching soccer tournaments and running soccer leagues where dozens of teams in the countries where we operate are now Jabu sponsored or Jabu filled. And I think the legacy we will leave is not one of having powered these shops, but created communities around the concept of what Jabu is doing, and all on the back of money that we were able to raise internationally to power this venture. So I hope my story, or our story, what we've done together at Jabu with, it's just hundreds of us at this point, serves as an example of something else you can look to talk about when you're thinking of raising capital for your country, or we're meeting investors and trying to convince them about what are the opportunities. We found an opportunity that every single government minister looks at us and says, what? And the reality is because they grew up in the same neighborhoods that we're servicing, and they've been selling the story of Namibia as a mining country, as a country that gives you opportunities to do a lot more from an infrastructure perspective. And we hope to continue trailblazing as we continue raising capital and expanding to show that this is something worth building. So thanks very much for your time.
Anyone have a question? Yeah, please.
I'll just yell it. Give the.
Okay.
It was asked earlier, but I also have this question. It's super cool what you're doing. I thought it was really interesting.
Well, our employees.
Yeah, but the issues will be different in each of these countries in terms of, you know, these digital services reaching those end users. So, I mean, how do you deal with that?
So yeah, I'll correct my statement so that it doesn't take you so far, but we are operational in Southern Africa. So we have employees in Egypt, in Latin America, in Europe, from a programming, product development perspective. We have people in Kazakhstan, imagine. I met someone from the Kazakhstan IPA, they were like, what, you employ people in our country? I said, yeah. And that's the amazing thing about where we are in a digital world. I would say you'd be surprised from both angles. There is a divide. There is a vacuum and a massive tech gap in the older population. But everyone has a phone. And when they don't have a phone, their neighbor has a phone. And when you're not willing to use the phone, we'll build out an agent program that will visit you and use their phone to show you how to place orders on the app. So, you know, we don't have it on this presentation because it's quite short, but the most amazing part of our company is called our customer success team. Without it, we would not be successful. And our customer success team is, you could call it a call center, but it's really a team of, by the way, mostly women, who are extremely empathetic, who are willing to listen to anyone for whatever reason, not just about an order that we messed up and we have to apologize, but someone who's like, hi, I'm calling you from my neighbor's phone and I need you to bring me 5 cases of this and 2 cases of that. And if that's the way you want to interact with us, and that's the digital divide speaking out, we will deliver even in that realm. So I think a lot of tech startups focus on like, oh, if you don't do it through this channel, we will not work with you. Us, it's more like, we want to make you sustainable. How do you want to place an order? And I think at the end of the day, if we're able to build that trust relationship, we're able to do what's on this slide, but not there, which was that ecosystem. We're right now acquiring a ride-hailing app. We're in the middle of finalizing it, so we're getting into the ride-hailing space. We have a wallet in some regards where we're actually digitizing people's money. None of these things would work if you were not able to build trust directly. And I think the digital divide is an excuse. Many companies used to say, it's not worth building. We're using the digital acumen as an excuse to build faster and stronger in the areas where it exists. And then phones are quite accessible. They're affordable. You know, the new iPhone is $1,700 in the US. But you can get for 1,700 Rand, or even less, for 900 Rand, which is about $50, a very good smartphone that still allows you to place an order with us. So we find everyone has all sorts of tech.